Hey, how's it going? Today we're going to play some games with Archaludon EX. Now, Archaludon is a 300 hit point stage 1 metal type Pokemon with an ability that says when we evolve it, we can attach 2 metal energy from our discard pile to our metal Pokemon. And it has an attack for 3 metal that does 220 and says we don't have weakness during our opponent's next turn. Now, everything about this card is pretty excellent except for the damage that it does. The damage is pretty mediocre. So we kind of have some things to make up for that. The Duraludon has a revenge style attack that says that it does 80 plus 10 more damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. Now that's not very good on the Duraludon, but on Archaludon that has 300 hit points, that is pretty good, and we can use it with the Relicanth that has an ability that says all of our Pokemon in play can use the attacks of their previous evolutions against matchups like Regidrago. If they hit us with a Phantom Dive, we can just throw a Relicanth into play and one-shot them. So, I don't know, it's pretty cool. We also have the Baby Duraludon in the deck that gives all of our Pokemon with metal energy attached to it free retreat. This is great. All of these metal Pokemon have huge retreat costs, so we definitely want that so we can't get gust stalled. And it also has an attack for metal colorless that does 160, which is not too shabby. Dialga VSTAR, its attack for 4 metal and a colorless does 220, and we skip our opponent's turn. Well, that's its VSTAR attack. Its regular attack is pretty good too. It is for 1 colorless. It does 40 plus 40 more damage for each metal attached to this Pokemon. So this can let us get big swing turns. We can hit into something with an Archaludon, use the Scramble Switch the next turn to get into the Dialga VSTAR and finish it off with the VSTAR attack that skips their turn, and then we have a ton of energy already built up on our Dialga, and we can one-shot most things on our next turn. So it allows us to pretty often take a 4-prize swing, which is kind of broken. And Scramble Switch, of course, says switch out, you're active with one of the bench, and you can move the energy, as many energy to the active as you want. This is a great ace spec. It just came out again, and it is pretty cool. We have, I put one Arven in the deck to make up for that. Like, we don't want to just have to randomly draw into a one of. So I figure Arven is at least like an extra way to find it. But we don't really want to play 4 Arven because there's no tool cards that are too great in this deck, except for maybe Rigid Band. But that doesn't really synergize with the Dialga VSTAR. So I just threw a Defiance Band in here so that we could at least one-shot the basic EXs when we fall behind, and also it can make Dialga VSTAR's math a little bit better. We have a pretty high gust count with the 3 boss and 2 counter catcher, because we're definitely going to want to gust on the Dialga VSTAR attack turn. And in the matchups that we don't end up using that, Archaludon is perfect for picking off bench sitting Pokemon like Rotom, Pheasantipity, Tealmask Ogerpon. We also have 4 Research, 3 Iono, and 2 Judge. We want a good amount of draw supporters because there is no like built-in draw engine or anything with this deck, so we definitely want to be able to find those. And Judge just seems generally pretty solid right now, so I have been trying that out. Could definitely cut the Judges for like a 4th Iono, and then whatever other card you want, like a Rigid Band or something like that, would be solid. There's also a Turo in case the Archaludon or Dialga tank a hit, then you can pick it back up. Specifically with the Archaludon, you can pick it back up and just reuse the ability to reaccelerate the energy, so that's pretty solid. Duraludon has 130 hit points, so we have to go with Nest Ball Artazon package. I'm not sure if there is a better stadium to play in this deck. I was thinking about Pokemon Headquarters, but just wanted to keep it as consistent as possible. Yeah, this deck is definitely a lot of fun and can make some unexpected wins from what I've found. Also, we are on the way to 1,000 subscribers, so if you haven't subscribed yet and you feel like it, that would be awesome. Thank you. So that is the list. Let's get into the game. We are up against Regidrago here. They started a Mew EX, which is a pretty good starter for them. Now this hand is pretty awkward. I play the Trekking Shoes and get into an Ultra Ball, which I would love to hold on to, but there's just not enough cards in this hand for me to keep it. So I get the Vessel, play it, and now I'm just checking my prizes with the Artazon, and I'm probably going to Ultra Ball as well for a Greninja. Probably get rid of the Archaludon and a Metal Energy, or I could get rid of Archaludon and Duraludon, but I don't know. I think this way just makes the most sense. I want to hold on, or I want to get as many basics as possible into play, and I have no choice. I need to draw with Greninja. It's kind of unfortunate that we're whiffing an attachment this turn, but It's just the way it is. Sometimes I could use the stretcher for one, but I might want the stretcher next turn for a metal to use Greninja, and then the other stretcher for evolution. Now my opponent just benches a VSTAR or a Drago V and researches and uses my own Artazon to get a Cleffa. That kind of sucks. I would love for them to have had to keep the Mew EX in the active. I think we'd almost be guaranteed to win the game at that point, but this is where we are now. Maybe this deck should play an Iron Bundle. I tend to really like Iron Bundle. A lot of people, I think, look over it, but I think it's a really good card, and it might just be worth playing in here. Maybe that's what one of the extra slots should go. As you can see, I also had a heavy ball on the list originally, but that's when I was only playing a 1-1 Dialga, and then I switched it to a 2-1 and just didn't find the heavy ball to be very useful, so I cut it for a third boss in the final list. Now here, I don't make the mistake here, but I made a mistake last turn by putting a fourth Duraludon in play. I definitely should have left a bench space open. This is the first time I played this matchup, and after playing it, I've realized that the key thing that you're going to want to do in this matchup is they're going to hit you with Dragon Pole attack almost definitely, and then you can throw the Relicanth into play and one-shot their VSTAR, and then they'll probably just concede because, you know, you probably killed their only VSTAR. They weren't expecting to get knocked out. That's definitely the way to go, but I did not realize that. I was just kind of on autopilot, like, oh cool, look at all these Pokemon I got in play. And then here, when they attack me, I realized that I made a pretty stupid mistake, and my Artazon ends up staying in play, so I would have 100% gotten that play off, which is kind of unfortunate. Now this is going to make this matchup pretty hard, especially if I am unable to evolve next turn, evolve up one of my Duraludons, because they can spread 20s on all of them and then set up for a big Kyurem play. Now my opponent researched away their Scramble Switch. See that they're trying it out too. It does make sense in Drago, but it might not be as good as it seems. Oh, they're playing the Alolan Executor. I didn't realize that when I was actually playing the game. But yeah, I think the Scramble Switch in Drago might just not be as good as like it seems in theory. You have to have the Teal Mask in the active with all the energy on it that you want, and so on. Now here they are going to use the Dragon Pole attack and put all the 20s like I was saying. And then this is kind of, well, when they put it in the discard piles, when I was like, oh man, I should have saved a spot for my Relicanth there. I'm thinking about evolving up a guy now to stop it from getting knocked out, but I decided not to because this took me a while to make this decision. It was kind of a weird spot. I probably should have attached, no, the Defiance Band wouldn't do anything, never mind. I didn't evolve up because they can't knock out my active and all three of my bench guys. So I want to get the full amount of energy. If I were to evolve up now and just put one energy in play, I wouldn't be able to attack next turn and I would almost definitely lose. And my opponent here just rips the VSTAR. I think that they were a bit too excited to use the Kyurem attack and dug for it a little too hard. They also preemptively set up their Charizard, which, fair enough. I don't know if I would have burned the energy switch there, because I don't know, you don't really need it, but I guess what they're thinking here is they're going to Kyurem and they want to have the Charizard to attack next turn. But what they don't know is there's no way that I'm knocking this Drago out. Now, I could definitely boss, and like if I could get Counter Catcher Iono turn, that would be pretty ideal. But I don't even have an Iono or a third metal. So here what I'm going to do, I'm just going to grab the Relicanth. For some reason I thought it had 60 HP, so I wasn't going to grab it originally, but it does have 100. Now I'm just going to evolve and poke the active for 30 damage. I could attach the Defiance Band and knock it out, but I do think that I would more than likely lose the game if I did that. If I just let them bring up this Radiant Charizard you know, nothing good is going to come from that. And I think my best shot here would be to try and stall for a little bit of time and hope that I can get into a draw supporter or something like that, because there are a lot of them in this deck, and I do end up top decking it now. So now the play can kind of pay off here, where I can counter catch up the Radiant Charizard, burn the Nest Ball, and play the Iono. I don't want to put the other Dialga V into play. I already have one that can be stalled in the active, and we don't have access to the baby Archaludon, so it's just not worth it. I do get into all of the Trekking Shoes and a bunch of metal. I should have Vesseled first, but I was just too lazy to count the energy and how many I had left in the deck, and I still don't do it. I'll do it eventually, but yeah, here I'm just making sure that I wasn't forgetting if like a Duraludon was prized or something like that. And I get pretty punished here for not Vesseling right away. I could have maybe not drawn into those 2 energy off the Trekking Shoes and gotten into something a little bit better. Now I think we're in a pretty good spot. Like, next turn I can attach to the Dialga V and boss up probably either the Ogerpon with the 2 energy or the Regidrago V, depending on if they attach to the V or not. And they do end up attaching to it, so that is going to be my target. Now, whenever like a situation like this happens, well, one thing before I say that, my opponent shouldn't have retreated into this. That was kind of silly. I could probably almost deck them out here just by passing back and forth. But the kind of thought with knocking out the Drago V is I knock that out, and then everything else in play I can one-shot, and I can one-shot anything else that they put into play as well. So we want to get that before it evolves. Here I'm just double checking, making sure that I'm not missing anything. They do have access to enough energy switches to make me not want to knock out the Ogerpon. So I do just knock out the Drago. And yeah, I think we're in a pretty good spot. I own my opponent low. They haven't been able to do much. They're down, I think, all their energy definitely, and a lot of recovery, and they do end up just conceding. So that was a pretty like unlikely comeback. That's why I wanted to use this game. I think that was like a great example of why you have to be careful when using Kyurem as Regidrago. I think if they didn't cure him, that game would have gone a lot differently. I guess that they probably should have assumed that since I wasn't playing cards out of my hand wasn't that great. I was barely doing anything. And if they just used like Dragapult to knock out my active, then I could have knocked them out back with the Relicanth Defiance Band combo and seen where we went from there. Getting rid of all of your energy as Regidrago and going down to 2 prizes when you've already used your VSTAR is just extremely risky. My opponent didn't even consider like, what if he doesn't knock me out? He just was thinking, oh, why wouldn't you take the prizes or whatever? But yeah, so I'm only doing one video or one game this video because, you know, no one really watches both the games anyway. And if you've gotten this far, maybe you're one of the few people that do, and let me know how if you preferred this in the comments, or if you really feel strongly one way or the other. But I figure this way, basically no one is going to watch both games anyway, and this will make it so that my watch percentage is better, and then the algorithm might push out the videos to more people. So yeah, like or dislike, comment, and subscribe. Take care and have a good one.